Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mansplaining Mike with the Mansplaining Mike Show, and today we're going to take another look at this illegal border hopper takeover, but we're going to look at it from a different perspective. I want to find out who's funding it, and what are they trying to accomplish by funding it. Not only that, we're going to look at what kind of problems it's causing, and some of the solutions to these problems since Donald Trump is back in office. We're going to hear from Tom Homan, his new border czar, and see what he has to say, guys. And I think he has a lot of great stuff to say. So let's get into it and see what's going on. Let's see who's actually funding this illegal border hopper takeover, guys.
And the number one organization for bringing refugees into America, the number one organization who finances refugee immigration in America, I said it before and I'll say it again, anybody can look this up, is HIAS, H-I-A-S, the Hebrew Immigration Aid Society. People need to wake up to reality, and unfortunately people are too scared to wake up to reality because of what happens to them. And whenever people live a lie, you must suffer the consequences because you refuse to adhere to the truth. And
well, I have to say, that's not surprising. It's those Hebrew-speaking people. The Zionists are funding it. They want our country to be taken over while we fund their border and keep protecting them. Isn't that interesting, guys? They don't return any of the favors we do for them. In fact, they make our country worse off. Worse off for the wear. And here, let's see who they're funding to get over here. Mexican gangs. Using terrorist communication channels to launch assassination attempts against Donald Trump. So that's what they're paying for. They're paying for terrorists to come over here and try to execute our president. Isn't that something, guys? They're paying for the destruction of our country, while all we do with our tax dollars is send it over there. All we do is send our money over there, for they'll be able to prosper with our taxpayer dollars, while we have homeless people sleeping on the streets. Anyway, guys, let's see the type of people who are coming over here. What are we paying for? I want to know, don't you?
I come from a missionary family to Mexico. We work with cartel members. We see them convert to Christianity, saying how they traffic thousands of children, specifically to Democratic politicians. And they actually said the biggest client for their product is the U.S. government. And that actually exploded under the Biden administration.
Wait, so the cartels were telling your family they were
directly in prison.
They were trafficking kids to Democrats?
Yes.
So it's legit. Cartels are trafficking kids as sex slaves for Democrats?
Yes.
Is this modern day slavery?
Yes, they are.
So just to give some detail for the audience.
Yes, sir.
You have an 11-year-old girl.
Yes.
What do they do with that girl?
They actually have to hide her. We were in Coahuila, which is where the Zetas were at. They just got eliminated, but they were the biggest traffickers. They actually kind of begin to dismantle under the Trump presidency, even for the Mexican government. But the biggest, we've known people that had to leave states, hide them, literally take them, like just completely.
And these girls become prostitutes
100%.
at 12 years old.
Yeah, parents have sold their kids into it just to survive.
So when you hear that 320,000 kids have gone missing under Kamala Harris.
100% accurate. We see thousands and thousands of migrants on top of trains coming across, just destroying everything across the path.
Do they mean America well or harm?
Absolutely harm.
So the cartel works with the American government
100%. So
to bring these kids as sex slaves. Yeah.
Yes.
This is not a joke, everybody.
This is not.
We've been saying this for a long time.
You guys can go. We have Facebook pages and everything.
It's the largest sex slave trade in the world history.
100%.
And Kamala Harris is overseeing it and co-signing it.
Man, it's horrible. It's not surprising. I mean, Joe Biden has always been running around here sniffing children and stuff. You wonder why? Well, now you know. And they said they were trafficking them to people in our government. Joe Biden's been in our government forever. How many of them do you think were his victims? Just out of curiosity. And then look, Sanctuary City, Denver, spending a whopping $356 million on migrants. Man, what if they were to take those $356 million, break it up into 6 winners and just hand it out? Or not 6 even, 356 winners. Everybody who got picked could be a millionaire. I mean, that's ridiculous. We're giving $356 million to people who don't even belong here. I mean, I'd rather them give it to some poor guy who's sleeping outside. Why are they giving it to some illegal? They don't deserve our money. And is it actually helping anybody, the amount of illegals and the amount of even legal immigration that we do in this country? Is it helping our country? Or is it helping these other countries who we're supposed to be helping? Is it helping anybody? What is it doing? Let's find out, guys. I bet you it's not. I bet you it's actually hurting the nation. Not our nation, but every nation who we're dealing with while we're taking in these illegal or taking in these immigrants.
That mass immigration into the United States can help reduce world poverty. Is that true? Well, no, it's not. And let me show you why. This gumball represents the 1 million legal immigrants that the United States has taken every year on average since 1990. Now, who in the world deserves our humanitarian compassion? The World Bank has one measure of the desperately poor of the world. They make less than $2 a day. And how many people make less than $2 a day in the world? Well, let's start with Africa. In Africa alone, there are 650 million people who make less than $2 a day. 650 million. And in India, another 890 million people, desperately poor. China adds another 480 million people, making less than $2 a day. And unfortunately, the rest of Asia has a heartbreaking 810 million people who the World Bank says make less than $2 a day. And finally, there's 105 million of Latin America's population that are desperately poor. All told, the World Bank says there are 3 billion people in the world. 3 billion people who are desperately poor, making less than $2 a day. That's 3,000 gumballs. And every year, we take 1 million and suggest that we've somehow made a humanitarian difference. Of course, we don't pull our immigrants from these desperately poor populations, do we? These people are too poor, too sick, too disconnected to make it here as immigrants. We tend to pull our immigrants out of the better off poor of the world. And Mexico tends to define the type of immigrant that we bring here because the plurality of people come from Mexico. And Mexico is poor. How many people in the world live in countries that have average incomes lower than that of Mexico? And the World Bank tells us that that number is these 3 billion plus another 2.6 billion people. 5.6 billion people in the world who live in countries with average incomes below that of Mexico. That's 5,600 gumballs. And so what is it that the elites are telling us? They're telling us that when we take this 1 million immigrants, that we somehow or another are tackling world poverty. And we have to do it regardless of the effect on our unemployed, the working poor, the most vulnerable members of our society, regardless of the effect on our natural resources. Even if we went by the most radical proposals in Washington, which are to actually double our immigration to 2 million a year, which would totally overwhelm our physical, natural, and social infrastructures, we couldn't make a noticeable difference. And we may be really hurting the impoverished people of the world because the million that we do take are among the most energetic, often the better educated, certainly the most dissatisfied people that if they did not immigrate would be the agents for change to improve the lot of all the people in these countries. The true heroes in the global humanitarian field are the people in these countries who have the wherewithal to immigrate to another country, but instead stay in their countries to apply their skills to help their fellow countrymen. Unfortunately, our immigration system tends to entice these very type of people to abandon their countrymen. The impossibility of making even a dent is actually worse than it looks here. Because last year, when we took 1 million immigrants, these countries added, births over deaths, 80 million more people into the impoverished populations. And this year, Congress is bringing in 1 million legal immigrants. And this year, according to the United Nations, these countries are expected to add another 80 million people. And next year, you can be quite sure that Congress, unless stopped by the American voters, We'll bring in another million immigrants. And these countries, unfortunately, will be adding another 80 million people into these impoverished nations. We could take 5 million a year, but we'd never get ahead of what's happening in these countries. Not in this century. Don't you see? Immigration can never be an effective or significant way to deal with the suffering people of the world. They have to be helped where they live. 99.9% of them will never be able to immigrate to a rich country. There's no hope for that. They have to bloom where they're planted. The only place that 99.9% of these people can be helped is where they live. Let's help them there.
Yeah, that makes sense, guys. It doesn't help us to keep bringing them over here, and it's not going to help them either. It's not going to help their country anyway. It might help them individually, the million people we let over here, but it's not putting a dent in world poverty. It's not doing anything. We're just stressing out our nation's resources by allowing them to keep coming. I mean, my father was a legal immigrant. I'm not against legal immigration or anything like that. I'm just saying it's not really helping the world. In fact, it's probably hurting it. The million people that we're bringing over here are probably the million best immigrants possible. And those million immigrants could probably do a lot of good for their own countries if they were to stay there. But they're not going to do any good for their country coming over here. Probably won't do much good for ours either. Anyway, let's keep going, guys. Let's see what Tom Homan's solution to the problem is. This guy is awesome.
Me and the Denver mayor, we agree on one thing. He's willing to go to jail. I'm willing to put him in jail. It's a felony if you knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities. It's also a felony to impede a federal law enforcement officer. So if we don't want to help, that's fine. He can get the hell out of the way. But we're going to go do the job. President Trump has a mandate for American people. We got to secure this country. We got to save American lives. Me and the Denver mayor.
And they got plenty of room for these mayors and these governors in jail. They got plenty of room for them. They got the extra food for them. They even got a free outfit for them. They're going to give them a free toothbrush and some free deodorant when they get there too. Let's lock them all up. All of these governors, all of these mayors who's allowing for this takeover of our country. They need to be held responsible. It goes against their oath that they take to the Constitution. They're supposed to, or they swear an oath to protect the Constitution. It goes directly against that oath that they swore, guys. We need to hold them accountable. You can't just lie to get into office, lie to the American people, swear an oath in front of the American people and on God that you're going to make sure that the Constitution is protected, and then you violate Article 4, Sections 2 through 4 of the Constitution by harboring these illegal immigrants.
I tell you what, the Trump team coming to town, we're going to take control January 20th, and people are going to be held accountable. We're going to be very transparent. We're going to get behind. What did the United Nations have to do with this open border crisis? Who in the administration, the Biden administration, opened the doors on this humanitarian crisis? What NGOs were involved in this? We're going to be very transparent to American people, and we're going to tell them the truth, what happened on this border. Again, by design, and we're going to let the American people know who was involved, why, and hold them accountable. I tell you what, the Trump team coming...
That's what we need to do. We need to lock them up. They're harboring these fugitives, and that's what they are. When you come here illegally, you violated the law. Their first act coming to this country illegally was an act of violating our laws in this country. They need to go back. And let's hear about some more of these NGOs who's funding this stuff. Because believe it or not, it's not all the Zionists. It's other people too.
Carol, and anybody else would like to answer this, can you name some of these NGOs that have specifically taken these hundreds of millions of dollars and not used it to protect these children?
Catholic Charities, Lutheran Family Services, Jewish Family Services. I spoke to a gentleman that works in DHS. He actually sends the electronic fund transfers, and I asked him, sir, tell me, who do you send, who are you responsible for, and how much is the largest check you cut? He said, I'm over Jewish Family Services, and I cut a check for $600 million. And I said, is that for like 3 years? And he told me, JJ, get in the game. That's 2 or 3 months, and it's renewable.
That's crazy, guys. Imagine how that money could help out American citizens. $600 million every 3 months? Man, it sounds like they could make a new millionaire every day. Twice. That's crazy. Instead, we got people sleeping on the streets, and they're trying to get more illegals over here, so we have a bigger homeless problem. Because bringing these illegals over here to fight for the housing, all that it does is it makes the price of housing go up. I mean, if there's more people than there are houses, the price and the value of those homes go up, so that people won't be able to afford them. The homeless people won't be able to afford the houses because they'll be too valuable for them. I mean, that's already the case, but they'll be even more valuable. So their chance of getting out of homeless shelters or getting out of homelessness, it goes down with every illegal border hopper that we let over here, or even every legal immigrant that we let over here. And I'm not completely against legal immigration. I think we need to stop it at some point, because I mean, we're just flooding our country with too many people. They're saying if we were to allow 2 million people over here, our economy would crash. With all the illegals we're letting over here, I think we're letting around 6 million a year in probably more than that. That's just what they're reporting to us. Anyway, let's keep going, guys, and see some more of the solutions that people are coming up with. I think her solutions seem pretty good. I think she's an activist. She sounds really smart, though.
They are responsible for this border crisis that we are now facing and that Americans voted out of office. And so you don't get to burn down the house and then complain about how it's being rebuilt. Their money needs to be taken away, the NGOs that help facilitate this mass migration here, and given to ICE and CBP to actually enforce the law and put into place what the Americans just voted for, and that is border security, and that includes interior enforcement. They are responsible
I think
for
she's
this
right.
border.
I think she's right, 100%. We need to stop allowing these NGOs to keep operating like that. A lot of these people have been thrown out of other countries before, like George Soros. I mean, when things like that are going on, that doesn't mean we need to welcome them into our country. If whatever they were doing was so bad that a country wanted to exile them, you shouldn't be able to come here. I don't know where you're going to go, but you got to get the hell out of here. That should be our saying. Yeah, we want you to get help. We don't want you to be homeless and stuff. We don't want your government to throw you and lock you in jail or give you the death sentence or whatever. But if that's what they're going to do, we can't save you by letting you come over here, because whatever you did was horrible. Anyway, guys, this was the Mansplaining Mike show. I'm Mansplaining Mike. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you did enjoy it. Comment if you hated it. Tell me how much you hated it. Also, make sure to share this. Share this with some sissy liberal who will cry about it for the next 6 months, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm out.